When fear becomes terror. The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 different species gathered for an emergency session. Commander Zextar of the Vorthan Empire adjusted his breathing apparatus, trying to calm his racing hearts. The holographic display in the center showed tactical reports that made even the most battle-hardened veterans uncomfortable. "The humans have broken through our third defensive line," announced General Krelock, her chitinous exoskeleton clicking with agitation. "Their ground forces are advancing faster than our computer models predicted possible." The assembled aliens exchanged worried glances. For the past 6 months, they had been fighting what they thought would be a simple conquest of a primitive world called Earth. The initial scans showed a planet with basic technology, divided governments, and no unified space defense. It should have been easy prey for the combined might of the Galactic Council. They were wrong. The first shock came when human soldiers proved far more resilient than expected. Where other species would break under the stress of orbital bombardment, humans seemed to grow more determined. Their infantry units fought with a ferocity that defied logic, often continuing to engage enemy forces even when severely outnumbered. Ambassador Thylorin of the Crystalline Collective spoke up, her translucent form shimmering with distress patterns. "Perhaps we underestimated their psychological warfare capabilities. Our troops report strange human battle cries that seem to boost their combat effectiveness significantly." "It's not psychological warfare," interrupted War Chief Brakthos, slamming his massive fist on the conference table. His species, the Gornathi, were renowned throughout the galaxy as elite warriors. "I've studied the combat footage personally. These humans fight like they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. They coordinate without technology we can detect, adapting to our tactics almost instantly." The holographic display shifted to show recordings from recent battles. Human soldiers moved through alien war zones with practiced efficiency, their weapons primitive by galactic standards, but used with devastating effectiveness. What truly unsettled the alien commanders was how humans seemed to thrive in conditions that would break other species. "Look at this footage from the Moscow front," Zextar said, manipulating the display controls. The image showed human soldiers operating in sub-zero temperatures while wearing minimal protective gear. "Our thermal-based troops required full environmental suits in those conditions, yet humans fought for 18 hours straight without any apparent discomfort." The temperature readings appeared beside the soldiers, showing conditions that would be lethal to most galactic species within minutes. Yet the humans moved with fluid grace, their breath forming clouds in the frigid air as they systematically dismantled alien defensive positions. General Krelock pulled up another file. "This is even worse. Desert combat footage from their African continent." The display showed human units operating in heat that approached the boiling point of water on most worlds. "They call this environment normal summer weather in some regions." The alien commanders watched in growing alarm as human soldiers executed complex tactical maneuvers while exposed to radiation levels from their own star that would cook most galactic species alive. Their dark skin seemed to absorb the punishment while they moved with the same deadly efficiency displayed in the frozen wastelands. "Perhaps most disturbing is their adaptability," added Intelligence Chief Vex Mara, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. "We've introduced 7 different toxic agents into their atmosphere. Their medical corps develops countermeasures within days, and their soldiers return to combat effectiveness almost immediately." The footage switched to show human medics treating wounded soldiers in field hospitals. The aliens watched with a mixture of respect and horror as humans used crude surgical techniques to repair damage that would require advanced regeneration chambers for other species. Soldiers who should have been incapacitated for weeks returned to combat within days. War Chief Brakthos leaned forward, his warrior instincts fully engaged. "I've fought alongside and against 43 different species in my lifetime. I've never encountered anything like human determination. They have a saying, death before dishonor. Most species treat this as poetry. Humans treat it as a tactical doctrine. The display showed urban combat footage where human soldiers fought building by building, room by room. Instead of retreating when faced with overwhelming odds, they seemed to dig in deeper. Their communication intercepts revealed something that chilled even the most experienced alien warriors. "Play audio file 77 Alpha," ordered Zexatar. A human voice crackled through the chamber speakers, speaking in their primitive but expressive language. The translation appeared in real time. "This is Sergeant Martinez to all units. We're surrounded, ammunition is running low, and they've cut our supply lines. Standard Tuesday, boys. Let's show these bastards what Marines do on a Tuesday." The transmission was followed by sounds of intense combat, human laughter, and what their linguists identified as war songs. The aliens listened in stunned silence as outnumbered human forces somehow managed to break an alien encirclement and launch a counterattack. Ambassador Thylorin's form flickered with confusion patterns. "How is this possible? Our psychological profiles suggested that humans would be easily demoralized once they understood the scope of our technological advantage." "That's just it," replied Intelligence Chief Vexmara. "They do understand our advantage. They simply don't care. We've intercepted countless communications where human commanders acknowledge being outgunned, outmanned, and outmatched. Then they proceed to plan attacks anyway." The holographic display showed a human military briefing. A scarred officer stood before a group of soldiers, pointing at tactical displays that clearly showed overwhelming alien advantages. Instead of planning a retreat, he was outlining an assault plan that bordered on suicidal by galactic military standards. "Watch their body language," Vexmara continued. "No signs of fear or despair. They're actually excited about facing impossible odds." General Krelock manipulated her mandibles nervously. "What kind of evolution produces warriors who become more dangerous when cornered? Every other species in the galaxy exhibits normal survival responses." War Chief Brakthos stood up, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber. "I formally request permission to study human combat doctrine directly. My Gornathi warriors have been warriors for 1,000 generations. But these humans fight like they invented warfare yesterday and perfected it today." The request sent ripples of unease through the chamber. The Gornathi were the acknowledged masters of ground combat in the known galaxy. For their war chief to express such interest in human tactics was unprecedented. "Granted," replied Zextar after a moment's consideration. "But maintain safe observation distance. We can't afford to lose our best tactical minds to human unpredictability." As the meeting progressed, more disturbing intelligence reports emerged. Human agricultural workers had been observed maintaining their farms while under orbital bombardment, treating alien aircraft like they were bad weather. Their industrial workers continued producing weapons and supplies despite constant attacks, often working in facilities that were technically uninhabitable by galactic safety standards. "Most concerning is their civilian population," reported tactical analyst Mordek. "Other species evacuate non-combatants from war zones. Humans seem to consider everyone a potential combatant. We have footage of their elderly, their youth, even their medical personnel engaging our forces when threatened." The display showed an elderly human female using a primitive projectile weapon to drive off an alien patrol. The sight of gray-haired humans fighting with the same intensity as their military forces sent chills through the assembled alien leadership. "How do we defeat an enemy that refuses to be defeated?" asked Ambassador Thylorin, her crystalline form now showing deep distress patterns. Before anyone could answer, an urgent communication signal interrupted the meeting. The face of Fleet Admiral Tex Aaron appeared in the holographic display, his usually composed demeanor showing cracks of stress. "Council members, I have urgent intelligence that changes everything. he began, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. "We've discovered that the human forces we've been fighting represent only a fraction of their military capability." The chamber fell silent. The idea that humans had been holding back seemed impossible given the fierce resistance they had already encountered. "Explain," demanded Zextar. "Our deep reconnaissance probes have identified what humans call Special Forces units. These are elite formations separate from their regular military. Initial analysis suggests combat effectiveness ratings that exceed anything in our databases." War Chief Brakthos felt his warrior blood chill. "How much more effective?" "Preliminary estimates suggest individual HFY ghosts in the machine." The Vorthan command ship, Eternal Dominion, maintained its position in the outer system, surrounded by the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 600 warships from 12 different species represented the combined might of the Galactic Council, yet Admiral Zextar found himself staring at tactical displays with growing unease. 3 days had passed since their last communication with Forward Base Sigma, located on one of Earth's moons. The base housed 5,000 elite alien troops and served as the primary staging area for the invasion. Now it was silent. Its automated systems still functioning, but not a single life sign remained. "Still no response from Base Sigma," reported Communications Officer Velcris, her voice carrying an edge of nervousness that hadn't been there a week ago. "All automated defenses remain active, but there's no biological activity anywhere in the facility." War Chief Brakthos studied the sensor readings from his position at the tactical station. His species had evolved from apex predators, and every instinct was screaming danger. "This is the 7th facility to go dark in the past month. No explosions, no battle damage, no signs of conventional warfare." The holographic display showed the lunar base from multiple angles. From orbit, everything appeared normal. The defensive turrets tracked properly, the shields maintained full power, and the landing pads showed no signs of damage. It looked like the crew had simply vanished without a trace. "Perhaps they evacuated," suggested Intelligence Chief Vex Mara, though her tentacles betrayed her lack of conviction in the theory. "Evacuated where?" Brakthos growled. "The transport logs show no departures. The emergency pods are still in their bays. 5,000 soldiers don't just disappear into space." Admiral Zextar manipulated the display controls, zooming in on the base's interior camera feeds. The corridors were empty but undisturbed. Weapons remained in their racks, personal belongings sat untouched in quarters, and the mess hall still showed signs of interrupted meals. "Send in a reconnaissance drone," he ordered. "Maximum stealth configuration." The drone launched from one of their stealth frigates, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it virtually invisible as it approached the base. The alien commanders watched through the drone's sensors as it navigated through the facility's corridors. The first bodies were discovered in the command center. "Blessed ancestors," whispered Velcris, her translator struggling to convey her species' expression of horror. The Vorthan officers were found at their stations, their bodies showing no obvious signs of trauma. Medical scanners detected no toxic agents, no energy weapon discharge, no conventional weapons fire. They appeared to have died instantly and simultaneously. The drone continued its survey, discovering similar scenes throughout the base. Gornathi warriors, renowned for their nearly indestructible physiology, lay motionless in their barracks. Their weapons were still holstered, their armor intact. Most disturbing of all, many showed expressions of surprise rather than fear or pain. "This is impossible," declared Medical Officer Hilterra, reviewing the biological scans. "These soldiers died of neural trauma, but there's no evidence of any weapon capable of causing such precise damage." The drone's cameras captured something that made the entire command crew freeze. In the main corridor, written on the wall in what appeared to be standard marking chalk, were symbols in the human language. War Chief Bractos activated the translation protocols. The message read, "With compliments from DevGru, resistance is futile. Surrender now." "DevGru?" asked Admiral Zextar. Intelligence Chief Vexmara's tentacles writhed as she accessed the human databases they had compiled. "According to our files, it's a designation for one of their elite units. The name translates roughly to Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Our analysis suggests they are among the most elite of human special forces." The implications sent chills through the command crew. They had been fighting what they thought were regular human soldiers for months, only to discover they had never actually encountered the humans' elite forces. Now those elite units were making their presence known in the most terrifying way possible. "How did they infiltrate a facility with that level of security?" demanded Zextar. The answer came as they continued reviewing the drone footage. Enhanced analysis of the security recordings revealed impossible details. Figures moving through corridors that somehow didn't trigger motion sensors. Guards falling unconscious with no visible attackers. Equipment failing at precisely the right moments to create blind spots in the surveillance network. "They're using some form of technology we can't detect," concluded Tactical Officer Mordek. "Either that, or they've developed stealth capabilities that exceed our current understanding of physics." War Chief Bractos studied the tactical implications. "Or they're simply that good at conventional infiltration. My people have legends of warriors who could move like shadows, but I thought they were just stories." The command crew was interrupted by another urgent communication. Captain Yexalon of the heavy cruiser Ironfang appeared in the holographic display, his usually calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the mining operation on asteroid designation 77 Delta. The entire workforce has gone silent." "How many personnel?" asked Zextar. 3,000 miners and security forces, sir. The asteroid contained strategic minerals crucial for our fleet's energy systems." The asteroid in question was located deep within the alien-controlled sector, surrounded by patrol ships and defensive platforms. It should have been impossible for human forces to reach it undetected, let alone eliminate such a large force. "Dispatch a full investigation team," ordered the Admiral. "Maximum security protocols." The investigation team consisted of 200 of the finest alien soldiers, supported by advanced scanning equipment and multiple backup teams. They approached the asteroid with every sensor active, every weapon system ready for engagement. What they found defied comprehension. The mining operation had been completely shut down with surgical precision. Every piece of critical equipment had been disabled in a way that would take months to repair. The workforce hadn't been killed. They had been sedated and left in the central habitat with a message attached to the main airlock. This time, the message was more detailed. "Mining operations in this system are hereby suspended by order of Combined Special Operations Command. Personnel have been treated according to Geneva Convention standards and will recover fully. Further attempts to exploit resources in this system will result in permanent facility closure. This is your only warning." Intelligence Chief Vexmara processed the information with growing alarm. "Admiral, this suggests a level of operational capability that exceeds our worst-case scenarios. They infiltrated a heavily defended position, neutralized 3,000 personnel without casualties, sabotaged complex industrial equipment, and left without being detected." War Chief Bractos was studying the tactical data with professional fascination, despite the circumstances. "Look at the efficiency. No wasted effort, no unnecessary destruction. They accomplished their objective with minimal resources and maximum psychological impact." "What psychological impact?" asked Communications Officer Velcris. "Fear," replied Bractos simply. "They could have killed everyone but chose not to. They're demonstrating that they can reach any of our facilities whenever they choose. We're not fighting an enemy. We're being hunted by predators who are playing with their food." The sobering realization settled over the command crew. Their technologically superior fleet suddenly felt like a collection of sitting targets. If human special forces could penetrate their most secure facilities at will, nowhere was safe. Admiral Zextar called for a full strategic review. Representatives from all alien species gathered in emergency session, comparing reports of similar incidents across their occupied territories. The pattern that emerged was terrifying in its scope and precision. Human Special Operations Forces were operating throughout alien-controlled space with impunity. They struck supply depots, communication relays, and command posts with clockwork regularity. Most disturbing was their apparent intelligence network. They seemed to know exactly when and where to strike for maximum impact. "They're not just fighting us," realized General Krelock during the emergency briefing. "They're studying us, learning our procedures, our weaknesses, our psychological profiles." Intelligence reports revealed that captured alien equipment was being reverse-engineered with impossible speed. Technologies that should have taken decades for primitive humans to understand were being incorporated into their tactical doctrine within weeks. Perhaps most concerning, reported Chief Analyst Mordek, is the evidence that they're coordinating these operations across vast distances without any detectable communication network. "Our signals intelligence suggests they're operating with real-time coordination despite being spread across multiple star systems." War Chief Brakthos had been reviewing combat doctrine manuals, trying to understand how human special forces achieved such results. "I've studied the tactical principles they seem to follow. They call it asymmetric warfare, using mobility, intelligence, and precision to defeat larger, more conventional forces." "But how do they move undetected through our sensor networks?" demanded Admiral Zextar. The answer came from an unexpected source. During routine maintenance of their stealth systems, technicians discovered microscopic modifications to their sensor arrays. The changes were so subtle that they would have been impossible to detect without knowing exactly what to look for. "They've been inside our ships," announced Chief Engineer Kolvex, his voice shaking with the implications. "These modifications would allow someone to predict exactly where our sensor blind spots would occur." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled commanders. Human Special Forces hadn't just been infiltrating their facilities. They had been aboard their most secure vessels, making changes to systems that even the alien crews didn't fully understand. "When?" demanded Zextar. "Based on the oxidation patterns, these modifications were made weeks ago. They've been operating inside our security perimeter since the beginning of the campaign." The scope of human special operations capabilities was becoming clear, and it was beyond anything the aliens had imagined possible. These weren't just elite soldiers. The devil you know, Admiral Zextar stood in the observation deck of the Eternal Dominion, watching the stars with eyes that had seen too much in recent weeks. Behind him, the command bridge buzzed with nervous activity as reports continued to flow in from across their crumbling occupation zone. What had started as a simple conquest had become a nightmare that defied every principle of galactic warfare. The latest intelligence report lay on his desk, its contents more disturbing than anything they had encountered before. Human Special Operations Forces had somehow managed to infiltrate the heavily defended Arcturus station, located in the heart of Galactic Council space, 300 light-years from Earth. "Sir," called Communications Officer Velcris, her voice tight with strain. "We're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's coming from everywhere." The main holographic display activated without authorization from the bridge crew. The image that appeared was of a human male in dark tactical gear, his face painted with patterns that seemed designed to invoke primal fear. Behind him stood a small team of similarly equipped humans, their presence somehow more menacing than an entire alien battle fleet. "Greetings," the human said in perfect galactic standard, his pronunciation so flawless it suggested years of linguistic training. "I am Commander Sarah Mitchell, United States Navy SEALs. speaking on behalf of Earth's Combined Special Operations Command. War Chief Brakthos moved closer to the display, his warrior instincts analyzing every detail. The humans showed no signs of stress despite being outnumbered by roughly 10 million to 1. Their equipment was primitive by galactic standards, yet they carried themselves with the confidence of apex predators. "You have invaded our world under the assumption that we are primitive and defenseless," Commander Mitchell continued. "This was an understandable mistake. We have taken great care over the centuries to appear exactly as primitive and defenseless as possible." Intelligence Chief Vex Mara's tentacles coiled nervously. Is she suggesting that their apparent technological limitations are intentional? The human commander seemed to hear the question despite the impossibility of such long-range audio detection. "Yes, Intelligence Chief Vex Mara. We've been watching your species for generations, learning your languages, studying your tactics, preparing for this eventual contact." The casual use of her name and title sent chills through the command crew. How could humans possess such detailed intelligence about their command structure? "Your invasion fleet consists of 637 vessels, carrying approximately 2 million combat personnel from 12 different species," Mitchell continued with clinical precision. "You are operating under the tactical doctrine established by War Chief Brakthos, following supply protocols designed by Logistics Commander Heptar, using communication frequencies selected by Systems Analyst Mordek." Each name was pronounced with perfect accuracy, demonstrating intelligence-gathering capabilities that exceeded anything in the Galactic Council's databases. The humans weren't just fighting back. They had been preparing for this war longer than the aliens had been planning it. "How is this possible?" whispered Admiral Zextar. Commander Mitchell's expression shifted to what humans apparently called a smile, though the gesture seemed more predatory than friendly. "Admiral, your people have been conducting deep space surveys for 3 centuries. Did you think we wouldn't notice the probe ships? Your stealth technology is quite impressive, but we've had a very long time to develop countermeasures." The holographic display split, showing images that made the alien command crew's blood run cold. Footage of alien survey vessels, supposedly operating under maximum stealth protocols, being observed by primitive human aircraft. Recordings of alien communications being intercepted by equipment that shouldn't have been capable of detecting their transmissions. "We know about the Crystalline Collective's resource extraction operations in the Proxima system," Mitchell continued. "We're aware of the Vorthon Empire's expansion into the Tau Ceti sector. We have detailed files on the Gornathi warrior codes and complete tactical analyses of all 12 species in your alliance." War Chief Brakthos felt his warrior pride crumble as tactical plans that had taken his people generations to develop were displayed with casual accuracy. "They know everything," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not everything," replied Mitchell, somehow hearing his comment across impossible distances. "But enough. War Chief, your people's concept of honor in battle is admirable, but you operate under the assumption that your enemies will follow similar codes. Humans abandoned such limitations when we realized we were not alone in the universe." The display showed new footage that explained months of inexplicable tactical failures. Human Special Operations Forces had been conducting reconnaissance missions in Galactic Council space for decades, gathering intelligence and preparing strategic assets that were only now being revealed. "The mining operations you established in the Kepler system have been monitored since their inception," Mitchell explained. "The supply depots you thought were secret have been mapped to the smallest detail. Your communication protocols have been compromised for over 50 years. Intelligence Chief Vex Mara processed the implications with growing horror. 50 years! They've been preparing for this war since before we decided to invade? Preparation is a human specialty, Mitchell replied. We have contingency plans for first contact scenarios that your strategists haven't even considered. Operation Looking Glass has been active since 1947, developing responses to potential alien threats based on observed probe patterns and technological capabilities. The display shifted to show what appeared to be a massive underground facility, clearly of human construction, but utilizing technology that seemed impossible for their supposed development level. Thousands of humans worked at stations that incorporated alien technology in ways that suggested complete understanding of the underlying principles. Reverse engineering is another human specialty, continued Mitchell. Every probe ship that your people lost to equipment malfunctions or navigation errors was actually intercepted and studied. We've been incorporating your technology into our capabilities for generations. Admiral Zextar finally understood the scope of their situation. You've been allowing us to believe we had technological superiority while secretly developing counters to all our advantages. Correct, Admiral. Sun Tzu, one of our ancient strategists, wrote that all warfare is based on deception. We have been following his principles for over 2,000 years. The holographic display showed new images that revealed the true extent of human capabilities. Space-based installations that had been hidden from alien sensors for decades. Weapon systems that incorporated alien technology, but improved upon it with human innovation. Most shocking of all, evidence of human outposts throughout Galactic Council space that had been operating undetected for years. The facilities you've been losing to our special operations teams are just the beginning, Mitchell explained. We have the capability to shut down your entire invasion fleet simultaneously if necessary. However, we prefer to demonstrate our intentions through educational experiences. War Chief Brakthos recognized a military ultimatum when he heard one. What are your terms? Simple, War Chief. Complete withdrawal from Earth and its solar system. Cessation of all hostile activities against human interests. Formal recognition of Earth's sovereignty and territorial claims. The terms were surprisingly moderate given the circumstances. Communications Officer Velkris voiced what everyone was thinking. That's all. You have the capability to destroy our fleet, yet you're only asking for withdrawal. Commander Mitchell's expression became more serious. Officer Velkris, we are not interested in conquest or dominance. We simply want to be left alone to develop on our own terms. However, we are fully prepared to defend that right with extreme prejudice if necessary. The display showed footage that demonstrated exactly what extreme prejudice meant in human terminology. Alien facilities being dismantled with surgical precision, enemy forces being neutralized without their awareness, military equipment being turned against its operators through electronic warfare capabilities that seemed like magic. Your Special Forces units, began War Chief Brakthos, his professional curiosity overcoming his fear. How do you achieve such impossible results? Selection and training that would be considered inhumane by galactic standards, Mitchell replied without hesitation. We take individuals who already represent the peak of human capability and subject them to experiences that either kill them or transform them into something beyond normal human limitations. The casual mention of potentially lethal training procedures sent ripples of unease through the alien command crew. Most galactic species considered the preservation of individual life to be paramount, yet humans apparently accepted casualties in the pursuit of tactical excellence. Our special operations personnel volunteer for duties that carry a significant probability of death, Mitchell continued. They train in environments that would be uninhabitable for most galactic species. They develop capabilities through methods that would be considered torture by your standards. The display showed training footage that made even War Chief Brakthos uncomfortable. Humans operating in conditions that would kill most aliens within minutes, enduring physical and psychological stresses that seemed designed to break the spirit, yet somehow emerging stronger and more capable. Why? Asked Admiral Zextar. Why create such brutal training standards? Because the universe is a dangerous place, Mitchell replied simply. We learned that lesson when your probe ships first appeared in our system. We realized that someday we would face enemies with superior technology and greater numbers. Our only advantage would be the individual capability of our personnel. The truth of the statement resonated with uncomfortable clarity. Human Special Operations Forces had been developed specifically to counter the advantages that alien species possessed through technology and coordination. "You have 6 hours to begin withdrawal procedures," Mitchell announced, her tone becoming formal. "Failure to comply will result in the activation of assets that have been in place throughout your occupation zone for the past several months." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the alien command crew in stunned silence. The scope of human preparation was beyond anything they had imagined possible. Decades of intelligence gathering, technological development, and strategic positioning had created a situation where apparent primitives held overwhelming advantages. Admiral Zextar looked around at his senior staff, seeing his own realization reflected in their expressions. They had come to conquer a primitive world, and instead discovered a species that had been preparing for galactic warfare longer than most of their civilizations had existed. "Orders, sir?" asked Communications Officer Velcris. Zextar considered their options with the analytical mind that had made him a successful fleet commander. They could fight, but against an enemy that knew their capabilities better than they did and had spent generations preparing countermeasures. They could attempt negotiation, but humans had already stated their terms with unmistakable clarity. "Begin withdrawal procedures," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of inevitable defeat. "All ships are to prepare for immediate departure from Earth's solar system." War Chief Brakthos nodded slowly, his warriors' understanding recognizing the wisdom of tactical retreat. "A wise decision, Admiral. We are facing an enemy that views impossible odds as acceptable working conditions. This is not a war we can win through conventional means." As the alien fleet began its retreat, Admiral Zextar reflected on the lessons learned. They had discovered that technological superiority meant nothing against an enemy that had spent centuries preparing for exactly this scenario. They had encountered warriors who treated death as an acceptable outcome and defeat as a temporary inconvenience. Most importantly, they had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their numbers, but their absolute refusal to accept limitations that other species considered unchangeable. The Galactic Council would remember this lesson for generations to come, and Earth would be left alone to continue developing according to its own dangerous principles. In space, the human special operations teams watched the alien withdrawal with professional satisfaction, already beginning preparations for the next phase of humanity's expansion into the galaxy. After all, they had learned everything they needed to know about their new neighbors, and the universe was a very large place with many opportunities for a species that considered impossible odds to be standard operating procedure, were something entirely new in galactic warfare. As the emergency session continued, more disturbing reports arrived. Alien supply convoys were being intercepted with precision timing that suggested real-time intelligence. Command posts were experiencing systematic communication failures that seemed random but followed patterns that benefited human tactical objectives. War Chief Brakthos summarized the situation with military precision. "We are facing an enemy that knows our capabilities better than we do, can strike anywhere at any time, and chooses not to kill us only because they derive more benefit from our fear than our deaths." The assembled alien leaders sat in stunned silence, finally understanding the true scope of their situation. They had come to conquer Earth believing they faced a primitive enemy. Instead, they had discovered warriors who treated impossibility as standard operating procedure, and somewhere in the depths of space, those warriors were preparing for the next phase of their campaign. Uman Special Operations soldiers may be equivalent to entire squads of our elite troops. We're dealing with warriors who have been specifically selected and trained to exceed even normal human capabilities. The implications crashed over the assembled aliens like a tidal wave. If regular human soldiers had already proven nearly unstoppable, what would their elite forces be capable of? Intelligence Chief Vexmara's tentacles coiled tightly around her control console. Do we have any visual confirmation of these units in action? Negative. They appear to operate in complete stealth. However, we have noticed several of our forward bases going silent without any apparent cause. No distress signals, no evidence of combat, just silence. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions as the full scope of their situation became clear. They had come to conquer what they thought was a primitive world, only to discover they were facing an enemy that viewed impossible odds as standard operating procedure. And now, they were learning that the unstoppable force they had been fighting was just the regular army. Somewhere in the depths of space, human special forces units were preparing for deployment, and the galaxy was about to discover what true terror looked like.